thank you so much for joining me for the Fine Watchers podcast. It's been one that I've been wanting to do for a very, very long time, particularly with both of you. I've spoken with Kathleen before, which was an epic episode, and we'll put a link to that in the description. But welcome, Adam Craniotes and Kathleen McGivney of the RedBar Group.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us, man. This is fun.
Awesome. Can we start?
I've been running around all day, so I'm still sweating from running into my house. But this is actually kind of what I've been looking forward to.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. Can we start with the traditional wrist check? What have we got today?
Ladies first.
I am wearing the RedBar Accutron Space View 2020 limited edition that we just launched in. When was that? September? We launched it in September.
That was September, yeah.
And let me clarify here in that Time. It's very funny to say this as a watch collector, as someone who runs a watch collector group. Time has lost all meaning. I don't know when things were anymore, but that was in September. We launched it September 20th. And I've worn it pretty much almost constantly.
I was going to say, you actually are pretty much reliably, that's what's on your wrist.
Yeah, I've gotten a few other watches since then, and so sometimes I'm wearing other stuff, but this one's been in heavy rotation.
Can I ask, does that have the hum that the old ones did?
Doesn't have the hum.
They don't hum.
They don't hum. So it's an electrostatic movement as opposed to the tuning fork movement. So it doesn't actually have the hum, but it does have like what I would not accurately, but would colorfully describe as a fidget spinner feature, which is there's turbines. The turbines that move on the dial, like when you with the movement of your wrist and stuff. It's somewhat fascinating and distracting to have it on sometimes, because I'll glance at my wrist and I'm like, ooh, spinny things. And so
no, you can't attend a meeting and wear this watch.
No, it steals focus for sure.
Yeah. The Mad One is, I think they modeled that on a fidget spinner, didn't they?
That is a fidget spinner. I am getting ours back. Don't worry, Kathleen.
Yeah, it's a fidget spinner combined with a Klingon batleth.
Yes,
with the dial.
Nerd alert!
Yes, we've started out very nerdy today,
which is okay on the Fine Watchers podcast, as we've established before. And Adam, what have you got?
So I am wearing my, if you can see it, Era Instruments Pilot P1. Only because I just literally had a meeting with the founder of the company. So I like to, if I own the watch, I want to wear the watch to respect them. But earlier I had lunch with the president of Panerai. So I was wearing, of course, a solid gold Panerai, as one does. It's a loaner, people. I don't actually own a solid gold Panerai. And since we're talking about Accutrons, I do, because I'm in my office, so my watches are around me. This is it on the bracelet.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah,
I don't know if you can see the spinning.
Yeah, definitely.
You can see it a little bit.
Turbines on the bottom. The slightest movement just sends them in a tizzy.
Yeah, wow, that's cool.
They spin so fast, they actually don't look like they're moving. And then the top rotor motor will also start moving. So the whole watch is basically one giant distraction.
Wow,
great.
That's cool. Super
cool. I kind of love it. I love it for that, but also, yeah, you're right. I can't pay attention in meetings. That's on my wrist.
So what are you wearing?
Nice. So I have on a Speedmaster, what looks like just a moon watch. And whilst I'm aware of the company I'm in terms of special edition Speedmasters, and particularly your Snoopy, mine is a Galaxy Express 999 and only special edition, which has the princess from the Galaxy 999 manga and anime on the back.
Oh my god!
Which is kind of cool. Like it's something different.
Dude, I'll trade you. You can have my Snoopy.
This has been recorded and will be a matter of public record very, very soon. And I'll
Here somewhere.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think it's sort of in the. I mean, the Snoopy, I've always loved it because it's a character watch, but it's so subtly a character watch, and this is kind of why I like this one, because it's it's subtle. You can't really. That is.
Yeah, this one you see
Amazing.
coming from a mile away.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
That is, you've got a rare bird on your wrist there.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. I mean, it's one they did 1,999 of them in Japan, I believe, in '99, and yeah, look, they're around, and they don't seem to command so much of a premium over regular ones, so they can be had, and they're super cool, I reckon. So yeah, I like it. I'm glad you do too. Kathleen, last time we spoke, we got your a bit of a story about your entry into the world of watches. But Adam, this is our first chat. Can you give us the Adam Craniotes watch origin story, and sort of what got the hook in, and why watches?
Yeah, no. Honestly, like I feel like my earliest memories, I already loved watches. And of course, you have to remember, I'm 51 years old. So when I started learning about watches, there was no internet, there was no, online databases and communities you could go to. I mean, you were really left to your own devices. And, again, as a child of, I'd say the 70s, 80s, the watches that I was initially attracted to, of course, were digital watches. My first watch my grandfather bought me was a Casio F7. Probably have it here somewhere. I don't know. My office is a mess right now, but it was a watch. I think I was about 7 or 8 years old when I got it. It was over the summer, and it changed everything for me. And what was interesting though is that because it was a Casio, I only liked Casios. So every watch I got after that, and that was with birthday money, money I got for chores or whatever, it was always a Casio, and increasingly complicated Casios. So some had melody alarms, some had calculators, and then G-Shock came out when I was about 11, and so then it was just only G-Shocks, and so I was only wearing G-Shocks. But along with this, I think a lot of kids in my era, my parents got me a subscription to National Geographic. And what was interesting for me about National Geographic is there were always ads for Rolex. And so whether it was a Submariner or Explorer 2, and there would always be a little story with it, or the Explorer who was wearing said watch or ambassador. But then what I would start to do is I would read the articles, and and I would find like divers, and you would see in the photos they're wearing a Submariner. Or believe it or not, the spelunkers, the cavers, had Explorer 2s on or whatever. And so for me, in the back of my mind, I knew that Rolex was the brand I was reaching for. And but honestly, really, what started it was Casio, then G-Shock, and then I moved up in the world, so to speak. It was my grandfather. I got to give him credit. I mean, he bought me that watch.
They've certainly done a good job over time, haven't they, Rolex, of creating a sort of a brand story.
Mythos, if you will.
Yeah, indeed. No, they're
and it's earned. It's not too false. I mean, obviously there's some issues with, was that the watch on Everest and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, Rolex was kind of the G-Shock of its era, in a sense, whether you saw them in the military or, with the mill subs, even Tudor, with the Marine Nationals. But like, these were the watches that, if you had to wear something that was reliable, that was going to take a licking to keep on ticking. And obviously that's Timex's thing, but it was interesting. I mean, that was, like I said, when I was reading the Explorers, National Geographic, whatever, those were the watches that people were wearing. Obviously now a Navy SEAL is going to wear a G-Shock or a Sunto, but back in the day, they were tools.
Yeah, I think it's funny you say that, because every person that I know who's been in the services wears G-Shock. Just everybody wears G-Shock. That's it.
Why wouldn't you?
There's anything else. Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting, and they've gotten a bit of recognition, I think, with the Casiokes lately. Like they've kind of become a bit more of a kind of a fashiony thing rather than just something people wear for, mountain biking or whatever, which is kind of cool.
I think that's right, actually. But it's funny because at least in the New York RedBar chapter, we have a lot of people who wear both. Quite a bit of both. They're not just, they collect mechanical watches as well as G-Shocks, and some of them wear the G-Shocks for sport and things like that. But there's a lot of love for G-Shock, I think, in general in the watch collector community because they're cool. Like you can throw them off a building if you want,
literally,
and they'll still work. And Adam has a story about that, but I also have a story about that. I was at a friend's wedding, and I was, chatting to the bartender as one does, and
He's looking for something.
And he was wearing a G-Shock, and I said, "Oh, nice G-Shock," And he says, "Well, I'm very loyal to G-Shocks," and he tells me this story. He was riding his motorcycle at speed on a major highway, and a car changed lanes and kind of clipped him. The bike laid the bike down again, going 60 miles per hour or something like that on a highway. Bike totaled, his leathers shredded almost to the skin. But he was fine.
At least he was wearing leathers and armors. He was
wearing leathers and armors, and he skidded. He skidded out. Scraped the hell out of the watch, but it still worked. Now the fun part of this is that there happened to be a police car about 3 or 4 car lengths behind that saw the accident, and the cop kind of slowed down, and as he's skidding on the highway on his side, he jumped up and he was like, "Fuck you!" And he yelled at the driver, and the cop was like, "I saw you get up and I heard you yell, so I figured you were okay." So the cop chased down the driver and pulled him over and arrested him, and then sent ambulances to pick him up. And
that's
that guy,
G-Shock owner, right?
And it's and then he's sitting there and he's he's assessing his damage, and he's like, he's fine and whatever. And he's like, "Oh, my watch is still working. It's scraped."
He's probably bounced off the watch to be able to stand up because they're
probably. Yeah, he's
look.
Anyway,
that's crazy.
We're here talking about G-Shocks again. I was digging in the crates back there, and this is actually one of my favorites. And I don't know if you can read. Is this reversing everything? Or I don't even know if it's.
We said straight up. Yeah.
So this was literally, if you do an event.
Oh, cool.
A rubber, like a band you can wear, so people, you're supposed to be here. So for our first global meetup, G-Shock actually made us watches.
Wow, that's cool.
So this is the RedBar Global Meetup 2019 G-Shock.
That's super cool. I've got the non-RedBar version of that with the all black face and all that. Yeah, that's cool.
It's very cool, and we were so thrilled with that, and people were very excited to get that as their wristband. And I think that subsequent events when we were giving out wristbands for drinks access and stuff, they're like, "Well, we don't get a G-Shock." I was like,
unfortunately, I think we peaked early.
I think yes, getting a G-Shock as your wristband is once in a lifetime kind of situation.
Yeah,
amazing. Actually, that's a perfect segue. Thank you, Adam, for steering it in this direction. We'll talk more specifically about RedBar and the community around it and all that shortly. But can we start with both of your thoughts on the following observation? The watch industry seems very, very unique in the consumer goods space, in that watch lovers and groups like RedBar, Revolution, and others have a much closer connection to and influence over the industry, and specifically what it makes. So there are plenty of, automotive industry has car clubs, the entertainment comic industry or whatever has cons, Comic-Con, whatever, and fan clubs and stuff. But the watch industry seems very, very tangibly influenced by its customer and over a much shorter time frame as well. So, people, the car industry, small SUVs are a thing, and so over the next 5 or 10 years, they develop models, But whereas watch companies will make something like what they've just made, what you just pointed out. There's the Accutron specially made in those colours and everything for RedBar. So I'm interested do you think this is true? Do you think that it is a unique industry? And if so, why do you think the watch industry listens and responds so quickly?
Well, I do think it's true, and I think that it's become more true over time, right? So it seems now that wherever you look, there's a collaboration coming out like all of the time, right? Now there's collaborations with collector clubs, there's collaborations between brands, there's collaborations with artists, there's all kinds of these collabs, and that was not the case, 15 years ago or so. I think honestly, with the sort of, I think the big increase in collabs, kind of started with Hodinkee. I mean, they started doing collaborations with brands, and right around that same time, when they started kind of being on the scene, collector communities such as RedBar were kind of also growing exponentially, as people started taking things off of the forums and going in person and meeting with each other. And I think watch brands, especially in the US, and I definitely want to emphasize that, because the US market and the people that work for the brands in the US totally understand talking directly to consumers, and they had to convince the Swiss that was a thing that you should do. So I think
that's always the case, though. I mean, they didn't even get the internet.
Yeah. So there's a thing. The Swiss industry tends to be a little slower to adopt change, but I think that this just largely started in with the fact that brands said, "Oh, I can actually get feedback from people who love watches and like learn what they like." And not just talking to, a customer in a store who's looking for a specific thing. I'm talking to someone who likes watches in general. And they, started to realize that like having that direct connection was actually really good for them. So I think it is a little unique too, in that the product development cycle, as you mentioned, for something like a wristwatch tends to be quite a lot shorter than something as large as a vehicle. So I think there's, especially if we're talking about doing tweaks to an existing edition where you're like removing a date window and changing a dial color versus creating a brand new thing. So I think that's, the form factor, the direct connection with the consumer, and, kind of the relationships that we've all built over the years. Like there's a lot of people in the watch industry that I consider friends, and we have like frank discussions about what people like and what watch collectors want. So I think that's definitely contributed to why this industry is so responsive to what their customers actually are looking for.
Do you,
I was going to say, Adam, do you have anything to add to that? Because I just rambled on for a little while. So
no, actually, I'm like, yes. Okay, you nailed everything. No, it makes sense, and what I like though is that the industry did take advantage of this input. I think at this point now, though, it's almost an embarrassment of riches, because now everybody's grandmother is coming out with a limited edition. I don't feel that all of them necessarily, these collaborations need to exist. So some of them seem a little bit crass or a little bit like a money grab. For us, at least with RedBar, what we don't want to do is have a watch coming out like every week, boom, 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 every month, boom, boom, boom. When we do a watch, and first of all, it has to be something that actually means something to our community. It's a watch that we think people will be into. Has to be within a price point that we think is reasonable. And then also, it has to be RedBar. There has to be a common thread between every one of the collaborations that we've done that you can say, that's a RedBar watch, that's a RedBar watch, that's a RedBar watch.
Mm.
What I'm seeing with a lot of these collaborations now is it almost seems like you're just throwing a plate of spaghetti at a wall and then seeing what comes out.
Yeah.
That it again, and that to me is the cynical side, which is, well, hey, there's gold in them Dar Hills, so everybody's doing limited editions. We're going to do one too, and we're going to do a collaboration. But there has to be a soul to it, and it has to tie to both of the brands.
Mm.
For us, when we work with a brand, it's got to be a brand that we feel a synergy with.
Mm.
I always joke that I don't like Invicta. And at the end of the day, I think Invicta is a brand that has brought a lot of people into the industry.
Yeah.
Brought people into collecting. So I do need to soften my stance there. But it's not necessarily a RedBar brand. I'm not going to
soften off from the flamethrower in the snow with the young.
Oh, you saw that, did you? Yeah.
That's one of my favorite watch videos ever.
People, believe it or not, I have several Invictas sitting here right now that people send me them anonymously as a joke. I don't know how many people have my address, which is a little scary. So Paul, my son, he really loves this, only because he just likes using all of the destructive tools we have at our country house. But I have seen the light a little bit, and so I've softened my stance on Invicta. In the sense that any brand that brings people into the fold, it's a good thing. Hopefully we can educate them and move them to a higher plane, so to speak. But again, it's a love of horology. It's a love of watches. Everybody starts somewhere.
I think
I still firmly believe that the collaborations have to make sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think to expand a little on your cynical point there around the money grabbing, it made me, while you're both talking, I thought about my last conversation was with Max Busso, who I'm sure we all would acknowledge is an absolute gentleman and such a lovely guy, especially for his standing in the watch pantheon.
He loves everybody equally.
He's such a nice guy, like amazing guy. But we were talking about the fact that the thing about watches is one of the things that's unique about watches is that people are wearing a product that's basically 700 years old. Like most of the innovation in it, really, other than what he does so skillfully, which is rearrange the architecture of the technology to create these amazing pieces. But ultimately, the escapement is, that old. All the things that happen in the watch are that old, and so perhaps it's a function of, this sort of specialization and customization is that really what the watch industry is selling is the form that 700-year-old technology takes. And so if consumers are saying, okay, look, it's the 700-year-old technology, but I want it to be red, they just make it red so that people buy this 700-year-old technology, Do you think that kind of rings true with the sort of commercialization thing of what you're saying there, Adam?
I mean,
other than just being a cash grab?
Look, it's a business. No matter what, at the end of the day, the only reason these companies exist is because they make money. This is not a charity. Although we do enjoy charity and donate to charity, and that's a big part of what we do, and that's a whole other conversation. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if we want these companies to still make these beautiful, ridiculous automatons for us, they have to make money. So it can seem cynical on some level, but at the end of the day, that everything's business.
No, sorry. The essence of my question was not necessarily about should they or the moral kind of implication of it. It's more around, do you think that's the influence that the watch industry sort of, because like coming back to the cars can go, okay, we can make this faster, we can come up with new composites that mean that it's lighter and it handles better, and we can put Apple Play in the thing, so you can get live traffic up there. So there are these sort of tangible differences and benefits in buying the next Toyota or BMW or Mercedes, because it's actually tangibly better than the car before. Whereas, you know, a 50s Rolex Submariner, well kept, is absolutely does nothing different to one that you buy from an AD today. Really, like, it tells you the time, and that's it. And so, in terms of the product development, what you have to develop is consumer points of that, which is design, different colors, print a RedBar logo on it, and make it different, you know?
Well, first of all, printing a RedBar logo on anything makes it instantly desirable.
Of course.
We'll say the whole point.
Hold on, let me put a RedBar logo. Walk around.
You're instantly more desirable.
That's another step on the tattoos there. That's a whole.
I know. Just, I don't have a RedBar tattoo yet.
We can work on that. Look, you know, the whole point of the watch industry at this point, it's reinventing the wheel year after year after year. Nobody needs a watch, and especially, you know, now in 2023, we are surrounded by time. You know, I'm looking at my computer. There's the time. I actually wear an Apple Watch just, you know, for health reasons and whatever. And there's the time. I'm on the subway. There's the time. I'm in my car. My car is synced with the GPS. There's the time. So I own a watch because I want to, not because I need to. So it's that. It's the need is not there, but the want is stronger. And the want is what makes it human. Because we're not rational beings. You know, we're not Vulcans, or we'll go back to the nerdy part of it. We're not ruled by logic. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's
kind of hard. It's kind of hard.
It's not. I thought I had it. You know what? Screw it. Maybe I drank too much, but. Well, you know, we all grabbed drinks before this.
It's all right,
but it's an emotional.
I'm having one during this, so there you go.
Fair enough.
Cheers.
No, but this is an emotional hobby. It's a rational hobby. And so, you know, if a design speaks to you on a visceral level and you have the means to do so, you buy it. You wear it, you look at your watch, and you smile. And
that's what it comes back to. Absolutely, that's
that's all it amounts to. You know, in my case, since I'm literally double wristing, I have an Apple Watch always on my wrist. Again, I'm fat, I'm overweight, I'm trying to go to the gym, I'm trying to get in better shape. It's there, but that means nothing. 9 out of 10 people are wearing an Apple Watch. It says nothing about who you are. This says something about who I am. So, you know, this is what I'm looking at for the time. This is what I'm looking at for computer crap. So, yeah, I'll go on. Yeah.
So I was going to say, by any metric, RedBar has to be the leading watch enthusiasts offline collective globally, both in terms of, I guess, of standing. But I couldn't find anywhere. A very quick question: how many members are there currently? Because I know there's no dues paid and all that, but roughly, do you know roughly how many members there are attending sort of chapters worldwide?
Around the world?
Yeah.
Roughly around the world. So we have 90 chapters worldwide, and that, you know, attendance is a sort of vague concept here, right? Because you know, we've got 900 members in the New York chapter and the London chapter, but like not all 900 of them come every time.
Not for an event and 1,000 people show up.
We are not.
Let's say the Christmas party every year or whatever. You know,
a Christmas party we usually have like in New York we have like 120 or so every year, but globally the membership is around 13,000. But you know, again, whether those people come once a month or once a year is sort of, you know, up to them. You know, people have lives and families and things like that. But we do have quite a large membership, and it is now, we are on every continent except Antarctica. And I'm going to say this on every podcast and every interview that I'm on until somebody in Antarctica becomes a member. We only need one person One scientist on a science station. Somebody there has a
Red
watch.
Bar Antarctica. Red
Get a-
Bar Murdo Station. Done.
Yep, that's all I want. It can be one scientist and a couple of penguins, and we're good. I mean, we don't have any.
Could you imagine putting a fucking watch on a penguin and then behind it with a sign?
Little wing, like, no.
Yeah, you'd actually be
Get
probably
that Victor off me. No.
yeah, we'd probably get in trouble for that. We're not doing it.
Well, it depends. And if the penguin consents, it's fine. But this would.
What does penguin consent look like?
Penguin
I don't know. It would have to
agency.
be like a
Sentient.
It would have to be a sentient speaking penguin, and you don't know what kind of science experiments they're doing down there. So anyway, my point being, we're on every continent except Antarctica currently, and that's really amazing, especially given that like when we came into the pandemic years, like we didn't have a presence in Africa or really much. We had like one chapter in Asia Pacific. We had a couple chapters in Australia, but nothing in New Zealand, but nothing in the rest of like Asia Pacific at all. And now we've got like 90 chapters worldwide. Whether those chapters are 20 people that meet once every couple months, or something as large as our larger chapters in New York and other major cities around the world. The size varies, but it's what I love about the whole thing is that people are very keen to like meet other Red Bar members and stuff. So like, aside from global meetups, as people travel around, they'll message us, or they'll like they've made connections with other chapters around the world, and they'll be traveling for business and just go meet other watch folks. And I think that's the real thing that we have enjoyed seeing about that as it's grown, is that there are people that we know, that Adam and I are friends with, that live in places that we've never been to, that are people who are in professions that we would never have crossed paths with at work, that are have any measure of different life kind of experiences that we would never have crossed paths with those people in real life, aside from this hobby, and to Adam's earlier point, a hobby of a thing that we don't actually need to like live our lives. Like I can survive without a watch. I can't survive without food or shelter or whatever. So like, it's really delightful to me when I go someplace and I meet people that are, they are Red Bar members, and they're just, they're there for this passion of this shared hobby that brings people together, which I find that's
instant friends, right? Like instant friends and family.
It's not just friends. I mean, and there's been articles about this, but there have been marriages.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's two
life partners.
There's two marriages that I'm aware of, and one long-term cohabitation relationship. But there's an article actually in GQ about one of the marriages, which is I'll call them out as Josh and Viviana Shanks, who are both in the industry, but were Red Bar members as well, and they met at Red Bar. And if you can Google it, there's an article on GQ. Cam Wolf wrote about it because I mentioned this when he was interviewing me for something, and he's like, "I know Josh and Vivi. I'm going to call them up and interview them about this," because he was fascinated by the fact that like people that met through a watch club ended up hitting it off and getting married.
That up. That sounds cool.
Yeah,
awesome.
It's very cool, and it's a thing that I think is again. These are people who would not have met otherwise. Like Viviana lived in Switzerland at the time, and Josh lived here in New York, and like they met because they were both members of the same watch club. Like and she was like visiting New York, and like most people when they go travel to a new city, they're reliant on friends that they might know that live there, or coworkers or things like that. And these guys met because of a watch club. She had an instant, she's visiting New York, and she had an instant place to go socialize and like instant new friends that all share the same hobby. And then now they're married, and they have a cute little dog named Steven.
Oh God,
Steven is so cute.
I want Steven. My dog Winston Zeddemore sucks. Except that unfortunately I love him. You can't help it, but I want I want Steven. So, Josh and Vivi, God forbid you see this. A, we love you, and I want Steven.
He's a long-haired dachshund, so like you can imagine, like you're gonna have to go look this dog up because he's like got little short legs and he's very low to the ground and he's very fluffy. And anyway, so obviously also we're big fans of dogs. And
we actually did during COVID. We had and this was weird to me, and this maybe is a little sidebar. We grew during COVID, and you would think that for a group like ours, a collective that thrived and really was founded on the notion of, as I like to say, taking the conversation offline and meeting in person, that this was our death knell. And instead, what we found is that the communities that we had already established, and thank God, using the technology we had, Zoom being paramount among those, stayed together and got stronger, because these were the bonds in the previous life, we like to call the before times, but that was what carried them through these difficult times. And so to be able to meet together, even though everybody's siloed in their own homes, it was actually a beautiful thing. I joked to Kathleen that we visited more chapters during COVID than we did before, because we were part of all of these Zooms and part of everybody reaching out together. And there was a point to this. I don't recall what that point was.
The community.
Well, community. But it was to me, it was the oddest thing that we grew chapters. We added chapters during this time.
I think
and lots of them.
I think it makes perfect sense. And Kathleen and I touched on this at some length in our other conversation, that COVID sort of made people want connection because you were sitting at home. And whether that connection comes actually sitting over a drink in a bar and breathing each other's smoke sort of thing, or on a computer, like you can. I think that people who are genuinely desiring a connection and genuinely able to make connections can make a connection and have a laugh and feel affinity even over this technology, which is remarkable. It's not as personal for sure, but I think it's it works, and I think that's one of the reasons that it grew so much. And I think that also watch sales and values went bananas during that time as well, because people wanted they wanted to feel something good, and watches can arrive via a courier and you wear it at home and you don't need to. It's not,
again, a watch was not a necessity. It was a want, and that was very human.
Yeah,
it was.
And you couldn't buy golf clubs and go to a golf club though, because they were closed. So
right. And that was the thing I found really funny. Like at least some of the folks that I already knew, and then some of the folks that I got to know during those times of lockdowns. We started enabling each other's purchases because we weren't spending money on dining out. We weren't traveling anywhere. We weren't doing extravagant experiences. So like we were like, okay, I'll just, this watch looks cool, I'm going to buy that. And so there was a lot of that. And I think that also kind of helped foster the community and the community connections, because people were spending a lot more time online and like talking to each other about their hobbies and stuff like that, because the monotony of being inside of a specific number of walls was a bit grueling to deal with. I will also mention that I texted Josh while we were just talking, and I said that we had mentioned him and Vivi and Steven on the podcast, and he sent me a picture of Steven. So I will share that with you for the show. Like, we want to have that in the show notes, because Steven appreciates the mention, apparently, and he's wearing a little sweater. So,
fabulous. Stephen will definitely be in the notes for sure. I'm looking forward to seeing his question. Adam, while Kathleen's no doubt become a vital member of the RedBar core team,
more than vital,
as it's grown and instrumental in starting the foundation and so on. You were one of the two original founders, if you like, the two originals. How do you feel about this? And especially as you've just said, like, you're not necessarily a people lover, you're not seeking fame or whatever. How do you feel about this kind of friends talking about watches thing growing into a worldwide organization with a brand that's recognizable as Rolex? And I'm guessing that, you know, when you go to Dubai Watch Week or whatever, you got people who you don't know coming up to you and wanting photos and, you know, whatever. How do you feel about that?
I love it, but I love it because it was organic, because it all came from the heart. There was no intention for RedBar to become what it is. It was literally, you know, two people, enthusiasts, you know, who randomly met and said, "Hey, you're cool. You're cool. Why don't we hang out once a month and just talk about watches? We'll find a place that's close to where we work." Because, you know, at the time, and this was really before social media, 2006, 2007, everything was online, which was wonderful. You know, it was everything I didn't have when I was, a teenager into watches. You know, all of that I had to do myself, going to, the international magazine stores to find the right magazines, haunting the local tornos and hoping they'd let me in and try watches on. And now you have this wealth of information online. But what was missing was the visceral aspect of it. And it's a very tactile hobby. You want to hold a watch. If I can bring, I had lunch today. This is not name dropping, but with Philippe Benet, who is the president of Panerai North America. He's a good friend, known him for years. He's been with Jaeger LeCoultre. He's been with Languesson. He knows where the bodies are buried, so to speak. And he was talking about, how the industry has changed a bit and a little bit, but that, even for him in the early days, there was something more physical about what collecting was about, and that the technology has changed that a little bit. So what I was looking for was really somebody to hang out with and just try a watch and have a conversation. So like I said, I didn't expect it to grow. My partner, Dr. Jeffrey Jacques, a New Yorker, he now lives in San Francisco. It was the two of us once a month. Then it was 3. Then it was 5. Then it was 10. Now we're meeting every 2 weeks, and it just sort of grew. But it got to a point, though, where, other cities, people were saying, "Hey, I love what you guys are doing. It's so much fun. It looks like every week," because I was posting, finally Instagram was out. I'm posting stuff, but we don't have that here. How do we get that? Like, I don't know, find a bar, hang out, get some people, chill. I had a job, Jeff had a job. We weren't thinking about it. And that's how these other chapters started springing up. And it got to a point where we had a bunch of chapters, and then enter Kathleen. As Kathleen likes to joke, our relationship can vote. It can drink legally. It can enlist in the army. Yeah. We've known each other for a very, very long time.
It's a disgusting amount of time. We've actually known each other for, I figured it out the other day. It was like, it's 20.
I don't know.
God, it's almost 20. It's 24 years for sure.
Oh, God.
I know. We're very old people.
For me.
That's right. But, and I think it might be a little bit longer than that, but
probably.
It's disgusting.
Well, I'll tell anybody who listens that when we worked together in technology, she was the best project manager I ever worked with, the most organized person I ever worked with, the most direct person that I'd ever worked with. So she had gone to LA, but when she came back and was like, "What the hell is this watch shit you're always posting? Can I come out and hang out?" I'm like, "Of course. I love you." Like, yes. But I've never seen someone go from 0 to 60 in as short a time as Kathleen did.
It was very bad for my wallet.
Yeah, and I do not apologize for that for selfish reasons. Because when the time came that I thought, I'm losing control of this, and I need help, that was where Kathleen was, and she was right there waiting.
Fabulous.
And honestly would not be where it is right now without Kathleen. I had the heart and the inspiration, but she'll tell anybody and tell you, I'm a big dumb animal.
Which is why it works, because you
I said it. I'll say it until the cows come home.
You do things instinctively, you know.
RedBar would not be RedBar Group today if we didn't have Kathleen. Simple truth.
Fabulous, fabulous. In our last discussion, Kathleen, you mentioned you attended your first RedBar meeting with a few swatches. You mentioned that it was really warmly welcomed, and that was cool.
More than a few.
It wasn't because
I brought 30.
When we collectively lost our shit, it was amazing.
Everyone, like, they did lose their shit. It was kind
of awesome, and that to me is what I love about watches is you know, I've always tried to push this idea through the podcast and talking to friends and, you know, whatever, that if you like it, it's a good watch. So it doesn't matter whether it's a Timex or a Rolex or a Langer or whatever. It doesn't matter. If you like it and it's cool and you enjoy it, then it's a good watch. So from the pieces you see turning up in your home chapter in New York and further afield, do you think that this sort of down-to-earth nature and this kind of pure intrinsic appreciation nature is consistent across RedBar internationally, or do you think that it's you know, there are some chapters more than others that there are a lot of Rolexes and APs and stuff, or do you think that it's pretty consistently a fairly sort of you know, open-minded group?
I think it's consistently open-minded because when we bring on new chapter, when people come to us and say, "Hey, I love what you're doing. I see it on Instagram, and, you know, or I've been to a meetup or whatever, and I'd like to do it in my city. Do you have a chapter here?" And we go, and we don't. We talk to those people and we make sure that they're in it for the same reasons that we are, which is that for the love of watches. Like, no, there's no snobbery. It's literally in the first rule of running a chapter, which is, you know, actually we say don't be a dick, but it's really no snobbery is right next to that, right? So
yeah.
And we do see it in New York, like definitely in New York, because we're physically there all the time. So if anybody behaves like that, they actually kind of tend to self-select out. So the kinds of people that come to a watch meetup to get the ego stroke from the, like, shiny gold, you know, Rolex or the unobtainium AP or whatever, they don't really get that, because everyone in the room is like pulling a Timex off of someone's wrist and going, "Oh, that's the latest, like, Timex peanuts, Snoopy Timex or whatever." Like, people, the people in the room are of such variety and a breadth and depth of kind of collector knowledge and stuff that someone in that room is gonna love every single watch, or someone will love all of the watches that are present. Like, there will be someone in there that thinks the Timex is the coolest piece, or that thinks the Swatch is the coolest piece. And there's, you know, and so it's just it kind of, because everyone is there because they just love watches, it sort of comes together as this very kind of equal playing field. And then there's not a lot of, we just don't, the snobs don't get what they're looking for. If this person that's, like, kind of snobby or is looking for that kind of thing shows up, they don't get what
they don't get the recognition. They don't get the
you don't get that
they want, because everybody's equal.
Yeah.
We don't measure your wallet. You know, we measure your passion.
Yeah.
I think one of the best examples I have, and Kathleen will back me up on this, is we had a well-heeled member, shall we say, and we had a Zeitwerk Phantom. So this is like a near mythical watch. They reissued one literally with a gold case, but this was, you know, an earlier version, a little bit rarer and a little bit scarier in terms of, holy shit, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
And so we had this watch there, and the owner and I had brought a limited edition G-Shock that was only sold in Japan. And it was like, oh, here's the crazy ass fucking Longa that nobody can get. And then the owner's literally like, wait, who brought the Ultra 7 like G-Shock?
Yeah.
Do you know someone? How can I get, And so the funny thing was, so everybody's wearing this watch. And again, it's RedBar. You can try it on. You can take photos. The owner's at the bar getting a drink. Because again, the deal is you treat every watch better than your own.
Yeah.
Who's trying your watch on? You're going to get a bag. It's going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And he's coming to me saying, like, how did you get this watch? Do you know someone? Can I? Meanwhile, I'm like, you're the guy I need to talk to.
Yeah.
If I, want a relationship with Longa, I do not own any Longas. I'll just point that out. But to me, it was sort of, it encapsulated what I thought was great about RedBar.
Yeah.
That it didn't matter. Obviously, people are excited to see this unobtainium timepiece that you're never going to own, you're never going to see again.
Yeah.
And the individual who owns that watch is excited about a humble G-Shock.
Yeah.
That would be so easy to obtain. And it was just, to me, it was everything that I wanted RedBar to be.
That's great. That's great.
We still are. I think we're still that.
Speaking about, we've all mentioned swatches. I'd love to get your thoughts on the Swatch X Chimeras that have come out. The Moon Swatch and the 50 Fathoms. I noticed, by the way, Kathleen, just speaking 50 Fathoms, I noticed you had the 50 Phantoms.
I do.
I got in on the blue one, so I ordered a blue one, and I'm so excited to get that watch.
It's so cool. I love the play on the concept. I love that they did it with the ghost. They did a ghost bezel version.
Feet.
The no feet is my favorite depth. The depth rating is no feet because the ghosts don't have any feet.
Don't have feet.
It's fucking delightful. It's delightful. It is just delightful. And the funny bit is, like, they had it, or they were like kind of teasing it at the Wind Up Watch Fair in New York back in October. And that weekend I was like running around between the Watch Time and Wind Up fairs, and I didn't actually make it to their stand. And a friend of mine had seen it and immediately went, "This is a Kathleen watch," and took a picture. It was Lewis Adam. So Lewis came over and was like, "Did you see this?" Like, showed me a picture of it. And I was like, how do I get it? What happened? So I set my alarm and got up at 5 something in the morning.
It was a fairly fraught process from what I
was a fraught, but I was very lucky. I didn't have any problems. And I got up at 5 something in the morning and got my order confirmed. And then I went right back to bed. But I'm so delighted with that piece.
Well, I saw it at the Norcane event.
Yeah, I was wearing it.
Delightful watch, and I regret not jumping in myself. I have a son going into college, so I'm not buying anything ever. But it's honestly, it's probably one of the most Kathleen watches ever.
That's true. It's very goth while being silly, and that's
she needs the black one, but the blue looks. I love what they did, by the way. They got some heat from some people, but I really think that Spinnaker, like, they addressed the issues and they did the right thing.
They did the right thing, but, like, I've started, and well, I'll get back to your question in a second, Ben, because I know that we've veered off.
No. It was me who derailed it, so it's fine. No.
I've seen this, so I've been watching kind of the Instagram stuff with, like, a lot of the brands, and they're all trying to handle these limited edition releases or these limited production releases.
A lot of entitlement.
Yeah, there's so much entitlement. It's just getting a little gross. But for example,
I don't know what that. Sorry to interrupt you. I don't know what they allegedly fucked up. Like, I had one in a cart, and my PayPal took too long, and I lost it. But every limited edition I've ever tried to buy, Unimatics and
Yeah, it's all the
stuff.
same.
Like if it's to do with the
Don't
servers.
forget the shit over the fucking the Messina Labs.
You miss out all the time.
Bing watches.
So I don't know what
You know,
they fucked up
honey
other than
gold,
I
everybody-
wanted one and I didn't get one. Like,
well, that's really the key here, right? So like we've seen this. I mean, you know, when Corona released the women's watch that they did, and there were a bunch of guys going, "That's reverse discrimination. I can't buy one because I'm a dude. What if I, you know?" And there was that, and then there was.
Incels were a huge.
Yeah, it turns out
enthusiasm.
Yeah.
But then there was, you know, I was watching this with Studio Underdog. So Studio Underdog just released their second iteration of their watches. Yeah, I have the same one.
Heyo!
Watermelon, love it.
Love the watermelon.
Again, I wanted this new field watch, but my wife is watching me like a hawk.
So the field watch is very cool, and he left the order window open for a specific period of time. That was posted on their Instagram. It went out to their email address, to their email list, and there were people in the comments like bitching that they were like, well, I've subscribed with multiple email addresses and I didn't get the email, so I missed out. And he's like, I left the order window open for, you know, a day or whatever. It was some subset of hours, but and people will complain no matter what. They wanted the thing, they didn't get the thing. You can't win. And so what I would like to say, you know, for the folks that are listening to this, this is not how life works. You don't always get every fucking thing you want. So maybe go outside and touch grass, which is a thing that we say to gamers. I don't know if anybody on here is a video gamer, but people get if you're sitting in your house and you're just looking at your Instagram and stuff, literally go outside and sit in a park and touch nature or touch grass or a tree or some shit, because you are taking this way too seriously. You'll get a watch at some point, and if you want that watch, I'm sure you can get it on the secondary market at some point. Like, calm down. Anyway,
yeah, I'm very much excited about that one. I think it's just cool, man. It's like it's just cool. It's like the Snoopy Omega, you know, or this. It's like, it doesn't appeal to everybody necessarily, but it's just, I don't give a fuck what you think. Snoopy's on the face of my watch. It's tastefully done. It's amazing. It's fucking cool, and that's it. So
that's it. You like it. It's great. And so to get back all the way to what you were talking about, the
chimeras. I thought you liked the chimera characteristic there, Kathleen.
Yes. So let's start with let's start with the most recent one, because there's already memes about it, and it's funny.
Oh, the jokes write themselves.
The Beaver Moon. The Beaver Moon.
I thought my mission to your anus wrote all the jokes.
All the jokes.
No, the Beaver Moon.
That was wrong.
Yeah.
It was wrong, because there's a mission. Sorry, Kathleen. You're a beaver.
So, but this is the best thing. So there was a meme that came out about it, and my favorite meme account, Brodinky, was like posting about it. I love that guy. He's super cool.
Shout out to Brodinky, because
shout out Brodinky. Good dude does fundraisers for like breast cancer research with strap collaborations and stuff. Like, he's to win it. He's a good dude. And I have been out drinking with him till like 2 a.m. So A+. He drinks whiskey. He has good taste in whiskey. Also a bonus in my universe. But he posted a thing, and I said, yeah, nice. He posted something, and I said, well, you know, there is, like, in the Farmer's Almanac, it is actually called the Beaver Moon. Like, it's a specific, like, the one in August was October. I'm sorry, the October one was a sturgeon moon, and Swatch chose to do it as a blue moon because that was like the last blue moon of 2023, because there's a blue moon means there's 2 full moons in a month. There's one on October 1st. There was one on October 31st. I am goth, and therefore I know this. But and I have a moon face tattoo on myself.
Yeah, we know.
But the point being, it is funny, and the jokes do write themselves. But they did take they were like, well, we can't really incorporate sturgeons onto the dial, but beavers, like. I don't know what they're thinking. Like, I think I liked the original. I liked the original ones, to be fair. I didn't like them. To go back to the moon swatches, the original ones were cool. They were like, some of them, like the one I have, the Mission to Mars, which is the homage to the Alaska project, which is one of my favorite Speedmasters of all time. So I loved that. I loved that I could get it for a couple $100. Cool. But I feel as though they've jumped the shark a bit. So, like it's just a little bit. And then I'm of two minds about the Blancpain one, because I do love the 50 Fathoms. I think Blancpain as a brand is, sort of underrepresented, and people don't give it the credit that's due to what they have done as a brand in their history. However, that one feels a little cash grabby to me, and I don't know if you feel the same way, Adam.
It was coming, and there were already rumors of it, even when the Moonswatch launched, and I think they did an okay job with it. But what's interesting to me is that even though I didn't like the fact that they reneged on the notion of doing online sales, which has really boxed a lot of collectors out of collecting the moon swatches. Their swatch stores are not everywhere. And in New York, we've got like 3 or 4 or 5. Los Angeles doesn't have a single one. So, then that means you have to go online and you have to deal with the scalpers. And of course, we know the moon swatch prices have come down. But, there's certain ones, still the Mission to Moon, the Moon, Neptune, you still can't really get easily. You still have to pay a premium for. And so, of course, that follows with, the Thrifty Fathoms. That was always my favorite nickname for that watch.
50 Fathoms. I haven't heard that one. That's cool.
Thrifty Fathoms, yes. But what's interesting to me, though, is that in spite of the bullshit, I don't like, enforced exclusivity or, restricted, numbers or any of that stuff. And I don't play that game. I still wanted it. I hate to say it. I still wanted one. And my favorite version of the Moonswatch was the Mission to Uranus. Not only because of the jokes, but I just love the idea of like a sort of a Tiffany blue, watch. There was a little bit of a fuck you, to everybody who loves Tiffany blue and whatever, because it's Uranus, it's your asshole. It's just a fun watch.
It's probably 2 to 3 Pantones to the left or right of Tiffany.
Oh yeah, you
to avoid the lawsuits or whatever.
But we know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Also, it actually did turn out that Uranus. That's how you're supposed to pronounce it, by the way. Uranus.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which also sounds a little bit like urine, so it's just you can't.
Whatever. Win. Just say Uranus.
Sorry, you guys must have heard about the Bodie McBoat thing in
Of course, Bodie McBoatface.
Okay, so in Australia, because this may not have made it to you guys, is the some Australian scientific body is thinking about launching a joint mission to Uranus with a couple of other space agencies, and they've opened that to public.
You don't do that.
Can you imagine a mission to Uranus with the Australians? What do you reckon we should call it?
I joke with this watch. The whole point is the jokes write themselves.
It's a fucking disaster.
But I'll tell you, it was weird though. For some reason, and I own a bathyscaphe, a 50 fathoms bathyscaphe,
which I get if you die.
A lot of people look for that when I die, which is weird.
Me and Jeff Jacques are fighting over it.
Yeah, you guys are going to have to fight for that one. It's a rare version. It was a version that was never meant to be.
They're a beautiful watch. Amazing. Yeah.
So I got lucky with that one. Like I said, it's a unicorn. But for some reason, and I've always loved the 50 Fathoms, especially when they came out with the series 1, 2, and 3. They were the anniversary editions. I think the first watches really with sapphire, luned bezels and all that stuff, 40 millimeter cases, everything that you kind of wanted. Of course, they followed it up with a 45 millimeter, the 50 Fathoms Sport. But some reason they leave me cold. I have not felt this overwhelming urge to buy, you know, the again, I call it the thrifty Fathoms.
Yeah,
I feel
they don't.
the colors missed. The colorways, the designs were not. I like the was it the Arctic? What's the white?
Yeah, there's a couple of them that are kind of cool looking, but I will say this too. Like
They don't resonate like the moon.
they don't resonate like the moon swatches. However, I will also say this, and it's probably controversial, and Swatch Group can feel free to tell me to fuck off. But the thing is when you're looking at the 50 Fathoms and the Blancpain's history of commitment to ocean conservation and commitment to kind of preserving the oceans, and then you are issuing a watch that is in bioceramic, sure, but basically a single-use plastic.
The movements cannot be serviced.
The movements cannot be serviced in those. The watches are, whether they're made of materials that can be eventually be yeah. So whether those materials will eventually like degrade or just be trash on our planet, essentially. I think defeats the purpose of like what the 50 Fathoms and Blancpain as a generally speaking represents. So to me, I'm a mix, like whether they look cool or not. I'm just like kind of like it. To me, it does not align with Blancpain's history and mission, and so that's why I don't like that specific collaboration or that specific edition. The moon, and I have the same reservations about the which again, it's single-use plastic, bioceramic. You can say all you want, but it's single-use plastic. None of the movements can be
feels like plastic. I mean, I have ceramic watches.
Right.
They don't feel like
it's not. It's just not ceramic. I think. For me, I think that those watches, it's interesting because you guys have both touched on a couple of the issues that have come up where people come, on Instagram and, socials and various forums, people have come up and they've said, oh, I own a Speedmaster and this is just rubbish and it's cheapening my watches, cheapening the brand, and da 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 da. But to me, the watch world is filled with, if not direct homage, it is definitely filled with influence from one to the other. So all pilot watches, 2 dots at the top, triangle, all dive watches, Submariner, triangle, whatever. Like there are certain tropes in watch design that are absolutely universal. And I think that Submariner and subdials and the chronograph and all that is something that's ubiquitous across watch design. And Swatch, I love Swatch. Generally, I think, if you're in an airport or whatever, you can scratch that itch for $100 and go, fuck, this is fun. This is super cool. I know it's not a, Langer, it's not a Langer perpetual calendar or whatever, but this is something that I'm going to look at on my wrist and I'm going to have fun over however many times I wear it and blah, blah, blah. Now, to me, the interesting thing about these collabs is, I mean, it's surely the launch of the Swatch, the Moon Swatch, has got to be the biggest single event in watch marketing or retailing of all time. Like, I don't know of any other situation throughout history where the launch of a model resulted in lines around an entire New York block.
Or stabbings.
Like, whatever it is.
Avenue Swatch store will not sell this watch, the Moon Swatches, because of that.
Yeah, right. And so like there was literally
you can't buy.
There was a situation. There were stabbings at multiple places. I think there was one in London, but there was I remember seeing some footage after the first Moon Swatch launch around the Bleecker Street store, which is downtown in kind of near NYU campus in New York, and there's cops at bullhorns, and they're very kind of out of central casting New York cops, with their like Brooklyn accents and stuff, and they're like,
early.
There's no more watches.
Move on.
There's no more watches. You gotta go,
Good.
like, 'cause, you know,
Good job.
and that's the thing is like the hype. So on the one hand, I think Swatch did a great job of marketing it, right? Because it made people who were not into watches go, ooh, a thing I need to get. But it also played on the hype factor where there people were listing those on eBay for 10 times retail before they even had one in hand. And that is bullshit, and I hate that. And I hate that about every single LE that comes out, you know, that which again I'm going to call on Studio Underdog in a positive way here, in that, you know, when
he handled that properly.
When he saw that someone had listed one of the field watches on eBay after he had a confirmed order, but of course the order hadn't been fulfilled yet, and he matched up the person with the eBay listing and canceled their pre-order.
Yeah.
That is, you know, you can't, not every
George
Bamford did that.
Bamford just did that as well, right?
No, and I think that that's the way, you know, it's impossible to do that. It's like, you know, it's like everyone in the watch industry trying to handle gray market, and like you're playing whack-a-mole at this point. Like you're never going to be able to control that behavior. However, it is just like the sheer profiteering off of that was kind of gross. So the only reason I even have a moon swatch is because a friend of mine, who will probably not listen to this podcast, but my friend Chris, who now lives in Cleveland, Ohio, but
please
living
tell
here
Chris
in New York.
To listen, subscribe, and like.
I will. I will do that. Dear Chris. So my friend Chris, he texted me from. He was in the in the Oculus downtown near where Adam lives, and he was walking by the watch store, and he's like, "Are these moon swatches any good?" And I said, "Yeah, they're kind of cool." And he said, "Well, I'm outside the swatch store. Is there one that you want?" And I said, "The only one I'm interested in is the Mission to Mars." And he walked in. There was no queue. There was no line. And he walked in, and he the only watch that they had one left. And it was a Mission to Mars, and he picked it up for me. So not only did I not have to stand in line, not only did I not have to go searching for this, my friend just kind of went, my friend that likes watches might want one of these. And that's how that one came into my possession, which I think is great. But again, this is a person who, you know, likes watches, but isn't isn't fully obsessed like we are. And it was on his radar because it was on everyone's radar. So I think that on the one hand, they did a great job with it.
It is a story, you know.
It is a story, yeah.
Ended our sort of insular, siloed industry. Even my wife knew about them. As a matter of fact, how I got this one is that one of her friends got into this shit, and then we all lived downtown, and they were like, "Oh, wait, does Adam want one? Which one does he like?" If we see it, because I don't always walk through the Oculus. It's in my neighborhood, and then they just happened to go there, and there was one available, and they bought it, and that's how I got it. Like I said, this one I got in Zurich. I like the Mission to Earth. That was my other
cool.
favorite.
The green, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
But what's funny though is that the strap costs as much as the watch.
Yeah.
This is the the Omega, strap, Velcro strap you can buy. So the strap is like $250, and the watch
Omega piece. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and so everybody thinks like that's how you know you've got it bad when you pay as much for the strap as the actual watch is worth.
My I got a Uranus as well in Japan. Uranus. I got a Uranus as well.
Say it like you mean it.
I got it in Japan. Actually, I spend a lot of time in Japan. One of the things that I do is sort of food tours and things to Japan.
Japan. I love Japan.
Which I mean, you must have seen. So where I got mine in Ginza, the Swatch Group facility there. You must have been there with the little lifts that go to the different boutiques. Just for the listeners, like if you are a watch enthusiast, even if you don't like any of the Swatch brands, if you like, it is the single best piece of retail in any category that I've ever seen. It's like it's like this kind of atrium, and there's all these little lifts, and they either take you up or down to the little boutiques of the various Swatch Group brands, including the Swatch shop and all their other brands. It's just absolutely amazing, and they had it there, and I was really happy to get one. But to me, I don't know, like, to me, the crossing of the brands, the blending of the brands, and any talk of devaluing the brands is just nonsense.
I agree.
Oh no, it's nonsense. That's complete nonsense.
Complete nonsense.
But it was borne out by sales. Omega Speedmaster sales, had a very visible, viable bump after all of this, happened.
Oh, it creating that halo effect of now I want the real one. And I think that's the beauty of the Blancpain. 50 Fathoms is something that's squarely on the radar of just about any watch enthusiast. I think that you would struggle to find a lot of non-watch enthusiasts who would know what a 50 Fathoms is at all.
Yeah.
And now they do, which is awesome for those fans, which is great.
I agree with that. I think that's one thing is it brings that brand and that watch to the forefront.
I think it helps them more than it helps Omega.
For sure. But like the thing is, like, if you were to stand, and Adam, we could do this if we wanted to as market research. If you were to stand on the corner of a major street crossing in New York City and ask the 100 people that walked by what their 3 nice watch brands were, they would say Rolex.
Mm-hmm.
They would probably say Omega in one of those top 3, and then they would either say like Patek Philippe or Audemars Piguet because they've heard of those from popular culture.
DJ Khaled.
Not a one of them.
Get like a Tag Heuer or
Tag Heuer or Breitling. Yeah, but you would in a top 3, if you said name 3 watch brands, go.
Yeah.
You would not hear anyone say Blancpain. So
nobody would say.
I do think that that's definitely helpful to Blancpain as a brand, to bringing them wider recognition amongst sort of the general population.
I think that the thing is that, and this brings me on to my next question, which I'll say in a second, but I think that with watches, there's 2 sources of value, at least to me. One is the joy value, and joy value ranges from wanting one for a long time, earning the money, being able to afford, finding a really nice one, deeper satisfaction, to that Swatch dopamine hit that I talked about before. So it's just pure joy value. And then the other is a deep intrinsic appreciation of the fact that of the thing that you've bought. And I think that the second one has such a wild variation in terms of what you can get for your money. So if you look at, say, an IWC perpetual calendar, whether the Portuguese or the big pilot, it's basically the same watch but a different size, right? Like in terms of the movement. But for second hand, for 25,000 Australian dollars, like 18 grand US, 15 grand US, that is an unbelievable piece of watchmaking. It comes with a little thing that has 2022, 2200, 2300.
I have the little vial with a wax seal on it. So when my watch reaches 2100 and they have to change the perpetual calendar digital readout, they have the part.
But again, so then when you price that,
I'll be dead.
But that's the beauty of it, right? When you price that against a Submariner, and it's the same price, from a horological point of view.
A better example, I would say, is, well, here is it. Here we go. Like I said, my office is a mess. I got watches everywhere. Now, this was the limited edition that we did. This was our Frederic Constant perpetual calendar.
Oh, Frederic. Yeah. Beautiful.
And so this is, approximately nowadays about $10,000, a little bit under, for a full perpetual calendar, in-house manufacture movement. But how many people are going to buy a $10,000 Frederic Instant high complication in-house again, or they're going to spend $10,000 on a Rolex or something that, as I like to euphemistically say, gets you laid at the club. So it comes down to a lot of emotion. Do you want the complication? Do you want what makes it unique? Or do you want the watch that people think you want? And while I do believe that Frederic Instant is coming into their own now, and again, we did this watch because we love them. We also did 100 pieces. We only did 10 perpetual calendars, but we did 100 pieces with the same design motif as three-handers that were, under $2,000, much more affordable. But to me, it was an interesting thought exercise. One of the most sought after and complicated of the high complications that you can have from a brand that maybe doesn't have the instant cachet of, say, Rolex or any of these other brands. But if you wanted to spend the equivalent amount of money with that brand, you're getting the three-hander. And in Rolex's case, you're getting a watch that they make, almost 1 million of, that rolls off a line that's mostly roboticized.
That somehow they don't have any in any of the shops anywhere around the world.
Because their marketing machine is that effective.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I hate to say it, you've got to give them credit. To make that many watches and consistently have the quality level that it exists at, I can't think of anybody else who can do that.
Oh, so look, no argument.
So again, I don't want to take the piss out of Rolex, but
no.
For me, every time I look at this particular watch, I'm amazed.
And point out the blood moon, because that was my.
Well, and Kathleen's contribution, of course, is
blood moon. Awesome.
Yeah.
This is the most goth watch I think we've done.
Probably.
Is that the Bela Lugosi? That's the Bela Lugosi edition.
Yeah, it's got blood on its hands, but
it reminds me of the Oris Kermit. The little blood. I fucking love that watch. It's so overpriced, but I love
that watch.
It's a fun watch, and I do love that they have the Kermit appear in the date window every month. That's really delightful.
That's it. That's all it needs.
If you zoom in on it, he's done perfectly.
Fantastic. And you don't have to have. You don't that's I think one of a good example of one of these of a collaboration watch done right, because the dial is beautiful. And so if you don't know that Kermit the Frog is going to show up on the first of the month, you just are looking at a really, really well executed dial, beautiful watch that
from across a room.
That it's comfortable to wear. The integrated bracelet they have is fantastic, all that stuff. And then you're like, and especially pandering to our generation, at least mine and Adam's. I learned stuff watching Sesame Street. I remember I learned, basic maths and and stuff like that. And we have a lot of Muppet.
Awesome.
There's a lot of Muppet love.
Awesome. I want those.
Yeah,
many
got Statler and Waldorf.
They're mad. Where did you get those?
Why do you always come here? I guess you will never know.
That's mad.
It's like some
good kind of torture to have to watch the show.
But this is with our RedBar.
So there's if you see the one in the middle.
Me in the middle.
That's him.
That's
so.
Awesome.
Christmas. So I will give a shout out to my friends who made that logo for us. The Waldorf and Statler ones are actually like a Muppet collab.
Sorry. Can I just? Sorry. Can I just? That just while we're talking about Sesame Street, I only found out, and maybe you know this already, but my favorite thing from Sesame Street was the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's the Pointer Sisters. The singers are the Pointer Sisters.
9, 10, 11, 12. I did not know that. So
I never knew that.
I knew that, but there's some crazy stuff. There's some really high-powered stars.
Musicians, it goes.
Morgan Freeman was the Black Dracula.
4/3. The time signature on it is crazy. It's That is a I'll send you guys the little YouTube that breaks it down. It is a mind-blowing piece of music.
I don't know that I need
I
this.
love it.
want
I
it.
need it. I am nerdy enough to need that. But I will say this. So to just get back to the Lego bit.
Shout out. Gotta give them.
So the RedBar logo that Adam just showed, and then the custom minifig that I had made
flip flops
of him, which also has flip flops on. There's one Lego minifig that had flip flops, and we sourced that. So I have these friends, Warren and Kitty Elsmore, who are based in Edinburgh, and they have made a bunch of custom Lego stuff for us. So
those projects are insane.
Yeah, they built a Christmas tree for me. They build custom stuff for like conventions and corporations and all kinds of really cool stuff. And Warren's written a bunch of books, but about like building custom cool Lego stuff. But back to lockdown is like in 2020 for the holidays. I was like, I want to make presents for people, so I made a bunch of custom minifigs of people with their with their help, and the one I made of Adam is the one that's like sitting there between Waldorf and Statler, which we like to joke that we are kind of like Waldorf and Statler.
We are Waldorf and Statler
because we are very grumpy and we kind of like to complain a lot, even though we're like enjoying the show, but we're kind of bitching about it.
But yeah, we're also here to bitch.
We're also just grumpy. So I will get that, and then I'll send you a link for that for the show notes, because everyone needs more Lego in their lives. I think.
I love Lego. I think it's amazing. I still build.
But then Kathleen also commissioned a lot of RedBar Lego keychains.
Oh yeah. We had Lego keychains for the global meetup in both 2019. Did we do them in 2019? I don't think so. We did them in 2022. And then this year for the global meetup, we just did them as bricks, that just individual Lego bricks. But they've done, and we had another one of the logos made that we did as a raffle giveaway at the event. So It's got the logo printed on it. It's fun, and everyone. And I was actually really happy with the person that won the raffle for the for the logo in the global meetup in Edinburgh, because the guy who won it was like a really big Lego enthusiast.
I have this right above my desk.
I love it.
It's the lady Margaret Hamilton who did the programming for there's a famous photo of her with the stack of program that she did for the moon mission or whatever. Lego's awesome. There's no doubt.
We're all like, again, I think if you like watches, you probably like Lego too.
Yeah.
We always part of it is that people love it. It's a machine. It's a tiny little machine on your wrist. It's super, super cool. It's just awesome. I think it's the beauty for me with watches is that it's people like watches for so many different reasons. And the most obvious one is just clout, right? And to me, look, I'm happy to go on record. You guys might not like it, but might not want to. But to me, there's a lot of people who've joined lately who know 3 brands, which may or may not have already had a mention on this podcast, and they kind of spend a hell of a lot of money, on their first watch from those 3 brands where really they could have bought a collection of 5 amazing watches for that money. And then there's this sort of deeper and deeper and deeper connection to the space where people understand the history of it. People like Gerald Genter. I mean, of those brands and models that we mentioned, Gerald Genter did too. And how many of those people who are wearing them?
3, actually. You mentioned IWC.
No, but in terms of the AP Royal Oak, the Nautilus, and say the sort of Rolex Sports, which I would argue are kind of the 3 biggest, most well known. Two of those are Gerald Genter, right? 2 of those are Gerald Genter. But how many of the people wearing them? Where if you go up to them, how long have you been in the world into the work of Gerald Genter? What? Who? What are you talking about? So,
and again, that's the double-edged sword that is social media and it is the internet.
Sure.
Because things get hyped without a backstory.
Sure.
So you know you want a Nautilus, but you don't know the story behind it. You just know the people who are wearing one.
Sure.
So you know that's the watch you're supposed to wear. But I think there's a point where whether I'm not saying that's the right or wrong reason to get into this hobby. Let's just say you can start at that level and somehow you've got yourself a Nautilus without knowing why you want a Nautilus. But at some point, you're going to look into it. And at some point, hopefully, there's a deep dive that takes you beyond that. Now, remember, again, I loved Casios and, I was a kid and that's what I could afford. But I'm reading National Geographic. I'm seeing these ads and, yeah, Rolex. I got to get that's the best watch. And a lot of people, I think, started their hobby by saying that Rolex is the best watch in the world. That's it. I'm going to get a Rolex and then I'm done. I've achieved my goal. And,
don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. When I talk about this, all I'm talking about is the mindset of the purchaser. I'm not talking about the intrinsic value of.
Well, no, but there wasn't. Remember,
what they're wearing.
Rolex, it wasn't because of the whole story too. It was also part of me was like, I got a Rolex.
But let me ask you this question, Adam. You've met tens of thousands of watch collectors more than me, no doubt in my mind. How many, or genuine question, I don't want it to be coloured with cynicism because of what I've just said. How many of the people who buy one of those big grail sort of models that I've owned, how many of them do you think then go on to develop a deeper understanding of what they've got on their wrist, other than the fact that, as you said, it gets them laid at the club or cachet on social media?
I've been lucky because of the community that we've created here. That everybody, for the most part, has really entered this hobby for what I would like to call the right reasons. And even that is a loaded statement because I think any reason is the right reason. And let's be honest, if you've got the means and you just want to buy a watch to show off, fine. That's as legitimate as any other reason, I suppose.
Sure.
You're going to be contributing to the community. You're not going to be part of RedBar or anything else. But, God bless you. You spend money. You fed, you put food on the table of some starving watchmakers. But I do think that if you really are spending that money, at some point, you're going to take a look. You're going to do a little bit of that deep dive, and hopefully it's going to hook you. And then you're going to find yourself going down the rabbit hole, and all of a sudden, the price isn't what's important. It's what moves you that's important. And some of my favorite watches are not my most expensive watches, not my most exclusive watches. Yeah. I'm wearing, again, well, now I don't know why you convinced me to wear my Snoopy, but, the Era watches that I was wearing earlier, that's a $1,300 watch.
Yeah.
And yet some reason it's a watch that I find myself reaching for all the time.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the design. I love the people behind it. It just makes me happy.
Yeah.
I was actually happy because, again, I had a meeting with Panerai earlier, so I'm going to wear the $30,000 solid gold Panerai.
Yeah.
I kind of was happy to take that off and put on my Era to meet with the owner and the founder of the brand, who's a good friend, and just kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it made me happier.
I will say this too, to piggyback on that. It's what I've started to realize about my own collecting habits.
Putting it back on, sorry.
Just my own personal collecting habits is that buying watches that I like, but buying them from people that I also like has become a thing for me. So, like, I have several watches from Fears, and I have the piece I picked when I picked up the piece from Studio Underdog. It was partially because the watermelon is such a fun watch, but also because Richard is a really lovely guy. You
It's a
know,
personal thing.
Yeah.
the Fears pieces I have, you know, I can look at a Fears Brunswick and go, and it's like the two Brunswicks I have, and go, okay, so my friend Nicholas, like, is the has brought this brand back and is the, managing director, and my friend Lee designed the typeface. And so I look at that watch and it makes me happy, because not only do I enjoy the watch and its aesthetics and everything about it, but that, like, I have a personal connection there. So like my own personal collecting philosophy of stuff that I'm buying myself, that I'm just out of my own pocket, has kind of gravitated in that way, where I'm like, it makes me, my collecting philosophy has always been buy things that make you happy, but it's evolved a little bit to be like, I literally have a personal connection to this thing that's on my wrist. Like, I look at that and I think not only fondly of, the watch itself or the acquisition of that watch, but the people that were involved in the acquisition of that watch.
I spoke with Tony, formerly of Rescapement and now of Hodinkee. In our conversation, we talked about Grail experiences as opposed to Grail watches. So when you sort of, that thing of sourcing the watch, who you bought it from and all that. And I find myself a little bit in that category now, where I've got a watch on order from Clement at L'Aventure. I'm waiting for one of the Submarine 2s coming. I've got the
so good.
I mean, I didn't realize that his movements were made by the company that made movements for MB&F. Like, it's, he's not mucking around with his suppliers there, really. So I'm definitely keen to see that watch. But I'm aware that as last time with Kathleen, we're coming up on 2 hours here, which is awesome. Which is awesome, absolutely awesome. It's past.
I feel like it.
It's past like 5 minutes, which is awesome. So can I ask you guys? I talked about this. If you like, it's a great watch, and obviously we've talked about some really, really sort of, you both have. There are so many people who have started watch content accounts and publishing platforms and whatever, and they've gone from very, very interesting, esoteric knowledge to then you can kind of see the press releases sneak in and all that. And you guys have both very much stuck to your kind of core thing of, I like this. This is my new watch. This is great. And that's been really, really refreshing to see. And one of the reasons that, Adam, I've wanted to speak to you for so long, and Kathleen, I'm so pleased to be able to speak to you again. Can I ask you guys, in the current market, who do you think, can you name some brands who are doing amazing work right now, and both at levels of, I mean, Adam, you just recently posted MB&F's latest ridiculous architectural creation, which is just unbelievable. But
you let people know, they still, and I asked Max and Harris there, they still do not accept children as payment.
Yeah, Adam tries to sell his children to purchase watches, and it's not. Generally speaking, has not been well received.
This has been going on for a very long time, and they are not relenting on this position.
Well, I think that the Futuro houses on which that watch is based are worth roughly the same as the watch now. About sort of, it's just crazy. But so the question is, people who are doing great work right now, both at whatever level, like whatever Hort level. But also, I think a lot of our listeners, and I think, a lot of watch lovers, a majority of watch lovers, even talking about a $5,000 watch is a shitload of money for people. Like, and I'm talking Australian dollars, let alone American dollars.
People forget. I don't forget.
So can you name a couple of brands, each of you, that you think are really doing some special work right now and that people might want to have a look at?
I would go ahead and, as you know, I'll always champion Fears, but I think the price point for some of their watches are a little, higher than maybe an entry level person would be looking at. But I will say Christopher Ward. They've always been very transparent about their pricing. I think that they have really come into their own as far as doing a very, sort of wide variety. The Belcanto, well-deserved GPHG win.
The Belcanto is unbelievable.
It's unbelievable for
the money,
especially for the price. And I own the Fears Christopher Ward collaboration that they did benefiting the Alliance of British Watch and Clock Makers, which is the movement is based on the Belcanto. So like that the Belcanto movement is a chimes. It's a single chime kind of movement, and the movement in that collaboration watch is a jump hour. So it's the same kind of base movement. It's just been modified a bit. But I honestly think that they're really coming into their own. They came at they have the moon phase ones, and they have a number of watches that are very accessible from a price point standpoint. They're very transparent about how they arrive at their pricing, and I honestly think that they're really they've proved themselves to be a kind of a pretty exceptional brand in their category at a price point that a lot of people can relatively easily afford. And I say relatively being that they're that we also forget sometimes that even $1,200 is not easily affordable for a lot of people. But from if you look at the broad spectrum of watch brands, for bang for your buck, that's a solid brand.
Adam?
Well, obviously, maybe it's on my mind right now because I just had a meeting with the founder of Era Instruments. The P1 Pilot, the D1 Diver, I think are beautiful watches with a design language that is entirely unique. They don't draw from anyone else, and the value proposition is off the charts for the price. And you're getting a 904L steel case. The only other people I know who do that is Rolex. So again, for me, that's a brand to look out for. They've got the next year coming up, an incredible collection of pieces coming out, and again, all the price points that make sense. And I have to tie that into what RedBar stands for. And yes, we all have these outlier pieces, that are expensive and desirable and rare. But at the end of the day, I'm all about what people can have, what you can buy. And while I respect the fact that $5,000 is a lot of money, $2,000, $1,000 is a lot of money to indulge on something you don't need. But I love seeing the brands that bring value to that. One, and again, a RedBar, sort of success story, homegrown Brew watches.
Brew's awesome.
I love Brew.
Well under $1,000. Yeah. That gives you incredible design. And from an individual whose passion is unparalleled. And yes, we're not talking about high complications and little wizened Swiss gnomes, slaving over workbenches making watches. But when you have a Brew on your wrist, I mean, there's still something very special about that.
And an amazing pedigree there as well. His father and grandfather are involved in watch design for Cartier, no? So it kind of doesn't get better than that, no? Wasn't Jonathan's family involved in design historically for Cartier?
His dad. I actually don't recall what brand it was, but his dad has been in the industry for a while.
It was Cartier. I could be wrong, but he's actually from a great pedigree.
The dude, and regardless, the guy John Ferrer is literally the nicest person in the business. So you buy one of his watches, and you just know you're supporting a sweetheart.
He's a wonderful guy, and I will say this: he's one of the people that I think probably I would never have crossed paths with if it weren't for RedBar or the community. But yeah, he's
made watches if it wasn't for RedBar.
right? And he specifically, he's always there to support. He supports, he shows up to other brands events with like a smile on his face. He's just a good dude, and he's supported our charitable efforts. To bring it back to something Adam mentioned, we always try to have a charitable aspect to a lot of the things that we do. At our holiday party that's coming up next week, we do a raffle for charity. We've got some really good prizes for that, and John always supports our efforts with that. Last year he provided a matching donation to the nonprofit of our choice for during the holiday party as well.
Wow.
Just a good dude all around, and that's a thing that, again, I keep going back to. Like, I have a bunch of brew watches, all of which I have paid for. Like, these are not, this is not a
Paid comment. It's not paid.
Yeah,
comment.
it's not a paid comment. I'm a paying customer as well as a friend of his. But this is one of those things where if I'm wearing that watch and someone out in the world that I've never met before looks at it and goes, "That's cool," I have a story to tell. I don't just say this watch is, from this company, and I can say
Nobody's
more than
meeting
just
Mr. Rolex.
Yeah, and there's
Mr.
but
Rolex
like
is gone.
I can tell you a story about the founder of this brand and his design inspiration, and what a nice guy he is, and I love that. Like, that's, for me, just my own personal collecting philosophy. That's become kind of my driving force. It's like, why would I not? If I'm wearing a watch, I want to be able to tell a story about it.
Can I offer one? Can I offer one of my own? So, and I don't have the privilege of being necessarily. There aren't. Although Bosel is a great Australian brand. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but please check it out. It's super cool. It's got Bondi sand in the crown and whatever. Christophe Hoppe is really lovely guy.
Aaron is a good friend of ours.
But to me, I think, look, I've always, and I said this when we spoke, Kathleen, I think Oris does amazing value across their range. Like, for what you get for what you pay is amazing. But to me, one of the outstanding things at the moment, it's been for a little while in the market, is the Longines Spirit collection. Now, it's a COSC certified collection. It's the designs are okay, Flieger-ish chronos. They're not breaking new ground with it or whatever. But Longines is one of the oldest brands in the business. It's Longines. The Longines hourglass and wings is literally one of the first trademarks in history. And when you pick up one of those, for what you're paying for it, sort of secondhand, you can get a time and date for sort of 2,500 Australian, so what, sort of $1,200 US. Like, if that watch was an IWC, it'd be $5,000 or $6,000 with exactly the same level of finish, exactly the same level of quality of movement inside. And to me, that's a perfect example of a brand that, may not have the hype cachet or whatever, but in terms of the intrinsic value of what you're going to get on your wrist is incredible value, and really not.
People don't realize, though, Longines is huge, and they actually are one of the largest sort of sellers, retailers, whatever, within the Swatch Group. So they punch above their weight value-wise, but actually, in terms of their distribution and sales, they're doing gangbusters. And honestly, the pieces they've been coming out with, wow. A whole lot of value there. I would almost look at them as like kind of the Tudor of Swatch Group. And that was another brand I was going to say, like, honestly, Tudor, I think offers so much value. For what you're getting. But one brand I wanted to call out, though, is Zodiac.
Seawolves. I want the watermelon Seawolves. That's awesome.
They are, and the price points are fantastic.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt that they've got, at least here in the States, Michael Pearson. He's one of our favorite all-time watch guys, period. And he's been with Bremont, most famously, Tudor. He's been on the retail side. Now he's with Zodiac, and they're so lucky to have him.
He's the best. He's so great. And he's passionate, and he loves watches, and he's like,
He loves the
person,
collectors. He loves the communities.
yeah, if you're going to have somebody that's like helping to build your brand,
That's
especially
what you want.
you want that guy, and he's a great dude, and I do think that the brand as a whole is doing great stuff. Like they're really like,
Really?
I think, doing a good job of going into their back catalog and like doing the sort of reissues that aren't cheesy. You know, they're like taking the inspiration from the
their
past.
new Synchron, Chronos.
Oh,
Like,
amazing.
They're doing,
You
It
know,
looks
they're
very
doing a good job.
Otavia on your left hand, Adam.
what? Which one?
A little Otavia, the panda.
Oh
Looks a
yeah,
little-
yeah. This one? No, this guy.
That one. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It looks like a little
That's my
Otavia.
favorite. Yeah,
That's
I think
super cool.
I
Love
shouldn't
it.
even, because they're going to remember I have them. But,
Love it.
no, but I mean the price points are great. You know, maybe it's premature to say that. Wait till January, and maybe there's something cool coming out.
Hey, I don't know. There might be.
I don't
Some,
know.
That may be related peripherally or directly to us, but no, those it's a brand definitely worth, I think, a look for a lot of people.
Can I just comment on brand experience? So if you define brand purely as the esteem and standard with which your consumers perceive your company, as opposed to branding, which is the telling of the story, the engineering of the story. I have a Renaissance Type 5.
Oh, fuck you. Sorry.
It's amazing how many people like. I think Phil Toledano's selling his. So Adam, maybe.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. So I sent mine in for service. They organized FedEx insured shipping. They took care of everything. They sent it back. One of the subdials was slightly misaligned. I contacted them. They arranged reverse shipping again. Just, you know, Rolex is not going to do that. AP is not going to do that.
Benoit is going to do that.
Benoit is, again, I've spoken to Benoit on the podcast, and he and Max are like two sides of the Wizard of Oz, you know, coin. Where did the balloons just come from?
I don't know. That's
Did you do
amazing.
that? I feel like Kathleen did that.
I didn't do it.
So weird. Anyway, maybe mention Wizard of Oz and it comes back. I don't know, but it's that
Wizard of Oz.
Or
Nope.
is it these things? I don't know. I don't know what triggered that.
I have no idea. That was amazing, though.
Cool balloons, absolutely. But yeah, I mean that to me is the beautiful thing about this industry is that you know, people like Max, Benoit, yourselves, you know, not to you know, fan bluster or whatever, like. You know, when I started this a couple of years back, it was COVID and everybody was stuck at home. So everyone was like, fuck it, I'll give this guy an hour because I'm not doing anything else. But it's continued. Max has come on for a second time. I messaged him on LinkedIn. You know, like people are so accessible and so friendly and so passionate about this thing, which is why I love it. Now, I know that we're coming up to 2 hours. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Kathleen, I still need to introduce you to Tiffany Sparkles. So let's round it out. The traditional Fine Watchers podcast closing point grails. 1, absolute money, no object. And 2, obtainable. I'll start. Money or no object for me has always been the Graves complication. Always.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, like, you know, shoot for the stars or whatever, but like that's why, you know, blue sky complication, blue sky grail. And then my other one at the moment is probably still, when we spoke, Kathleen, the revolution. What is it? Spritz time. That orange.
The spritz o'clock. Yeah.
Amazing. So if you know anyone who's got one who wants to sell it, let me know. But guys, please, your blue sky and obtainable grails.
Oh, so blue sky, I'm going to say there's 2, if that's all right. One I say every time that I'm asked about it, which is the Gronefeld Remontoire. because there are no more, and they are on the secondary market for very many
insane.
dollars.
Beautiful.
And it's a stunning watch. And the Gronefeld brothers are delightful humans, and it's just a fascinating watch. It's also like kind of watching a fidget spinner, because every 8 seconds the regulator kind of activates, and so but it's a much more expensive fidget spinner. And then I would say the JLC Quadriptyque, which is the Reverso Hybris Mechanica Reverso that they exhibited in, I think it was Online Watches and Wonders 2021. But I just saw it again at the JLC pop-up here in New York a couple of weeks ago, and it's literally got like multiple not moon phase complications, but moon related complications, which is kind of one of my favorites. So I would say that, and it's out of my budget, let's say, and let's say attainable. I don't know about attainable ones. I was trying to think about it. Actually, I don't know. Let me. I would have to think. I have to think about that one. I'd probably be like one of the sold out, small limited editions, like one of the Ming pieces that.
I was about to say Ming.
Yeah, there's some Mings that are like really cool, but you can't buy every watch that you like. So I would probably say one of the Mings that got away.
Something for me, Adam.
Yeah, honestly, and this would change depending on the minute and hour day you asked me. Something that just jumped into my mind was the Audemars Piguet concept, one of the original concept Royal Oaks they did in alacrite, which is an incredibly hard material that actually broke the machines when they were trying to mill the case. And it's been in my mind forever. I'll never get one. I'll never even ever see one. So folks, look it up. Alacrite, crazy watch.
Nerd.
Sorry. Guilty. And then in terms of accessible, though, I honestly, the first place I was going to go was Ming. And obviously accessible here means different things to different people.
Sure.
I'm not going to lie. His latest ultralight psychotic concept piece.
Oh, yeah, that thing is fucking cool.
Okay, so as opposed to 100,000, 500,000, it's $19,000, $20,000. This is not necessarily accessible.
Yeah.
But like, it's something that, a lot of people, if you sold most of your collection, you could get it. And having tried it on and worn it, and again, just knowing Ming and having that relationship. Again, I don't have a relationship with Mr. Audemars or Mr. Piguet. But I know Ming, and he's a great guy. It would have to be something from Ming. And I'm fortunate that I have probably one of my favorite Mings. I don't know where it went. I swear to God, I had it here a second ago. All right, whatever. It's a mess here. But I have the Messina honeycomb combo, and that watch was
very, very controversial.
Very controversial.
Yeah.
But again, the price point and the whole point behind Ming was to offer people watches with a provenance and a design that at a price point you wouldn't ordinarily find. So Kathleen, I think Ming is where it's at. Where did
I think Ming is where it's at. I mean, I've got a couple of Mings, to be totally fair. Like I already have a couple, but I do like that concept watch that the super light one, which is a bit.
Oh, here it is.
Nice. One that came to my attention recently. I know that you have a soft spot for these, Adam, with Black Badger, the Arcano, the Havender. That whole thing with the Seychelles purple is mind blowing.
Those are very cool.
He's a mad scientist. But yeah, I have the 4-day.
Amazing.
Which
Yeah.
is
The
insane.
Fortnite
What
stuff.
I love is you could pick your dial.
It's crazy.
This one is just totally trippy. I have no idea what time it is whenever I look at it. That's why I have an Apple Watch on the list.
See, that's cool. But Oris did that upcycle thing with the
plastics. Yeah.
That was
That's
pretty
a good-
cool. Like that's super good. If you're not buying one of those, that's a very, very viable alternative. Guys, thank you so much. I mean, I've taken up so much of
Yeah, it
your
was a
time.
pleasure.
Yeah, it was an absolute pleasure.
I'd love to have you guys on again, meet you in person in NYC at some point. But thank you so much for joining me on the Fine Watches podcast.
All right. Have a good one down under.
Please come down under. We'd love to have you guys down here.
Well, in Melbourne, we have a great RedBar chapter there. So props to Ernie Tang.
Shouts to Ernie. Absolutely.
He's the man.